Welcome. Make yourself comfortable, won't you? I want to tell you a story.
Hello. Greetings, invaders. My name is Scott. This is Book Invasion. Today we're going to be talking about The Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan. This is Gareth's first novel. He is a current game writer and game designer for role-playing games and such. So he's not a stranger to the fantasy realm, and this is a great, wonderful fantasy book. This is book 1 of the Black Iron Legacy series. The city has always been, the city must finally end. When 3 thieves, an orphan, a ghoul, a cursed man, are betrayed by the master of the Thieves Guild, their quest for revenge uncovers dark truths about their city and exposes a dangerous conspiracy, the seeds of which were sown long before they were born. Carrie is a drifter, whose past and future are darker than she can know. Rat is a ghoul, whose people haunt the city's underworld. Spar is a stone man, subject to a terrible disease that is slowly petrifying his flesh. Chance has brought them together, but their friendship could be all that stands in the way of total Armageddon. So it's a bit of urban fantasy meets cosmic fantasy, a touch of Lovecraftian horror. There are creatures in here, and like they said, ghoul. There's a ghoul who feeds on human flesh, named Rat. There is Spar, who is the stone man, whose skin is slowly petrifying into stone, and it prevents, unless he gets some sort of medication shots, his flesh deteriorates at a higher rate, and it prevents him from moving. But it can also turn him to, like, the Thing from Marvel, and he can bash through walls and dodge, be bulletproof and so on and so forth. And Carrie is kind of the one that ties them all together. She is the thief who suddenly awakens with the power from the gods, and she doesn't know why, where it's coming from, and that kind of unravels this big conspiracy. So there's kind of like a pseudo-modern technology, but there's also like an alchemist's guild. So there's kind of wizards and shapeshifters, but there's also, I believe, like a shotgun at some point. So there's a mix of those type of things. It doesn't dive too deep into this mythical realm. It takes place in kind of the real world place, but there's just some fantastical elements that are around this world. So it's not too hard to believe and follow this story. So there is a big plot line here of these ancient gods that are being arisen and are kind of bringing war to this neutral city, who has always kind of been just the neutral party in different things, but now all of a sudden chaos kind of has fallen down on top of this city. And our hero, or heroine, I suppose, Carrie, is starting to unlock this voice of the gods, and the perspective that she sees becomes distorted, and all of a sudden she will start to see things, third person, her own body. She'll kind of float over the city and be able to spot things, but she doesn't know why or where that's coming from. But then all of a sudden they kind of direct her to uncovering these type of things. So the writing style of this book is set to kind of reflect the character. So as we follow Carrie, things are a lot choppier and abrupt. There are, during like the fight scenes and the battles, there's things that are just like, jump, swing, hits, and not like not a full sentence essentially. When we're dealing with Rat, he is more based off of kind of the smells and the texture of things. Since he's a ghoul, he kind of describe the sinewy things of when he's eating fingers in the underworld. And then when we're dealing with Spar, things are kind of a lot more deliberate and slower. So the POV shifts between those characters, but the writing style of each of those is really well done. I thought you kind of immerse yourself when you're dealing with these 3 elements. And the world that this takes place in, you kind of feel it kind of being a little bit dark and cloudy. Street lamps lit and cobblestone streets and back alleys, underworlds and large church steeples of ancient buildings. The world building of this is really well done. I really enjoyed it. And the characters here each have kind of their own unique take. The span of the conflict in this book is kind of really wide-ranging, but in the book itself, it only focuses on a certain kind of piece and a certain kind of player. And that's what I liked about this book, is that it doesn't branch off into these crazy family lineages and histories, but it covers the history of kind of the black iron gods that exist here, and where they may have came from, and what Carrie's role is in playing a part of this war, essentially. And then there's the bad guy who is trying to suck the power away, and she's trying to stop it. So without giving too much away, that's kind of the feeling of this book. It was very, there's a lot of fantasy elements to it, but there's also kind of more of a modern touch and rooted in more of a reality type story, but there's also these crawlers and ghouls and things like that, which I thought was really cool. It kind of just gets you into a scene that you can imagine and picture from like London or wherever, but then there's also like a collection of ghouls or worm people, things like that. So it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I don't dive too much into fantasy, but I felt like this one was a good taste of a different, non-standard fantasy, where it could be like there's a piece of steampunk in here with these candlestick men. There's a bit of Cthulhu things with crawlers, and you'll hear about that. And then there's the kind of the stone men, which are, you know, just your almost superhero-ish type guys. There's ghouls, which is kind of like a horror type of element. And then there's thieves and alchemists, which are always awesome. And I really liked how the author pulled all those stories together, pulled all those pieces together in this book.
And so that is my thoughts on The Gutter Prayer. I look forward to reading the rest of this series and how the story evolves. It was really interesting. I hope you check it out. Thanks for watching. Those are my thoughts. And like and subscribe. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.